It's a lot.
What?
When he pulled you for swearing at
Yeah,
him,
he did,
basically,
yeah.
he pulled you over to the side, and I thought, oh, hold on a minute, is Simon flapping a little bit here? What's going on?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Welcome to Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. This is episode 29, and in the spirit of continuity and at the demands of the producer, I'm going to ask you to continue to watch the videos and like and subscribe. More importantly, Spence, past that drivel, how are you? Let's get on with the show.
Simon, yeah, very well, thanks.
We've just come off, literally just come out of the studio, you've been listening to it outside, with an hour's interview with the enigmatic, charismatic, slightly eccentric Chris Eubank Sr. He said a lot of things, spoke about a lot of things. A lot of it was about himself.
Yes.
But what was your takeaway from listening to Chris Eubank Sr. for an hour?
Do you know what? It was a fascinating listen, as it always is with Chris. You might ask him one question, and he's got
a riddle wrapped up in a rhyme.
He's got an answer in his head, and he's going to go wherever he's going to go with it. But yeah, listen, I found it fascinating. I found a lot of it surprising. I think the one thing that I took away from that was there's a clear breakdown between him and his son, Chris Eubank Jr. You know, when he mentioned about receiving a letter saying that he no longer wanted him as part of his boxing team anymore, really surprised me. He obviously took that to heart because he went in depth about that and he kept returning to that as well.
Because I was pushing him on that, wasn't I?
Yeah,
I was saying to him, well, do you not understand why your son would want to distance himself from you? Because he's got this huge shadow over him. It doesn't become about him. It feels even in his conversation, Chris, that it all starts, middles, and ends with you. And if you're a man that wants to travel in his own way, you'd possibly want to be free of that.
He wanted to create his own legacy. That's what I think Junior wants to do. He wants to come out of the shadows of his old man.
Which is understandable.
Which is difficult to do. You know, his old man has got an
But it's
unbelievable
understandable
legacy.
for him to want to do it, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and it seemed like Senior didn't want him to come out of the shadows. He didn't want him there. He wanted to keep him close. Yeah. You know, and it was one of those, it was a fascinating, it was a fascinating
it was
chat.
an interesting insight into the mind of Chris Eubank Sr. There's been lots of observations made about where he is. I mean, Christ, the man's had some difficulties in his life recently with some tragedies that only people that could have experienced that sort of stuff could comprehend. Unfortunately, we haven't had that experience with the loss of a son and things of that nature that can only do damage psychologically to the mind.
Sure.
But I found him, I mean, I've met him before. I've met him in different...
What was your biggest take from that interview? Because, I mean, he covered a lot of subjects, the Conor Benn situation.
Well, my biggest take was after the interview when he reprimanded me for using some choice language in conjunction with the subject matter. Because he is a riddle. On one subject we were talking about he didn't want to be explained something to. When I didn't explain it to him on the next subject, he wanted to be explained to. So I was like, oh, for Christ's sake, Chris. And one has to operate in a certain way with him. I found him interesting. I didn't find him as eccentric as I have seen him in previous incarnations, when I've seen him around London in hotels that I've been in and so on and so forth. I think he's got an insight that into the game of boxing and the personalities that is unique. I don't necessarily agree with all of his thinking. I do think that the son has got to step out from the shadow of the father, but he believes he's stepping into the dark, i.e. people that aren't looking out for him, people that aren't able to give him the toolkit to be able to achieve the things that he wants to achieve. And so I understand his point of view. And he talked about the uniqueness of a relationship between a trainer when he was making observations about Conor Benn and the situation that Conor found himself in. Yeah. And then he equated it to something along the lines of the complete and utter implicit trust that you put yourself in the hands of others. Yes. And of course he was making some strong allegations, which I'm not necessarily repeat here because it's not my gift to repeat them. There's no need to. He can repeat them himself if he wants to, about those around Conor and who would have put him in that position.
Conor was basically pure, and it was, and the board needs to look at the people that are surrounding him as the guilty parties to what's going on.
And it's clear that he blames the trainers around Conor, and he also seems to have some rancor towards Eddie Hearn, the promoter, which I can only assume is Eddie, and some of their motivations, and some of his sentiments I share. But Chris Eubank, whatever you may think of him, and there was mixed messages coming in. A lot of people were raving about him. A lot of people saying, "The hell is this?" And I did make the accusation. It seems to be all about you, Chris, and everything. It starts with you. And anyway, but look, it's well worth listening to if you haven't listened to it previously.
You'll get those mixed reviews because Chris Eubank
divides the room.
Senior, well, he's unique in what he does. Like I said, he's programmed to say what he's going to say, whatever question you're going to ask him. But I've known him for many years, so I understood what it was. I knew how the conversation. I knew how the conversation was going to go, and yeah, but
he sounds okay, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
There was a question about was he in sound, body, and mind?
Yeah,
and I get the impression that the cameras go on, and he knows the impression he wants to create. He wants to create electricity in the room. He and I got on okay. One of the things he said to me, which was quite flattering, was the reasons why I've come here is because I've come here because I wanted to do a show with you.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed speaking to him.
That was good.
I did. I enjoyed speaking to him.
It was good.
But his son...
I had to laugh.
What?
When he pulled you for swearing at him, basically. He pulled you over to the side, and I thought, oh, hold on a minute, is Simon flapping a little bit here? What's going on?
No. He was right, though. He was right. He was talking about disrespect, and I was saying to him, no, I was trying to concentrate your mind. Over there, I was talking about one thing. I wanted to give you the courtesy of explaining to you what I was talking about.
Yeah.
You didn't need that courtesy.
Yeah.
So when I was trying to get to the point on another subject matter, you then wanted to be explained. So you're being a riddle wrapped up in a rhyme. And he said to me, that's centered in disrespect. I said, no, disrespect has to come with intent.
Sure.
I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I was trying to get to the point. But listen, I think he was right in what he said, to be honest with you. So I don't mind having a reprimand.
The word he used at the end of the interview?
Oxymoron. Yes.
Well, that's what got him. That tied him up. And Chris is a very intelligent guy, but that one tied him up.
What
does that mean exactly?
It means a contradiction in terms.
Okay.
It means almost like saying one thing and doing another. And what he was talking about was that he was exonerated from what? By sitting on a bus. Yeah. That's not exonerated. He didn't explain to me what he was exonerated from. But listen,
but he
had a point somewhere.
Oxymoron. I don't know what that meant, but...
Anyway, listen.
Brilliant. No, it was good.
It was nice to see it. Yeah. Obviously, last week we had a number of fights, but the one that leapt out for me, which really, with no disrespect to Sonny Edwards, who fought very well and retained his title and wants to fight, Bam Rodriguez, and hopefully he'll get that fight. But the fight that really piqued my attention was obviously the return of Josh Taylor against the murderous Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah.
And it didn't play out the way I thought it was going to play out.
Well, myself as well.
And you too. And I think also Gareth A. Davis had observations. And I think a lot of the boxing world expected Josh to come back with a vengeance and with the desire to correct people's thinking after the Jack Catterall situation.
Yeah.
And what I thought we saw was his three enemies manifest themselves: inactivity, coming down to the weights, and Teofimo Lopez being back to what we thought he couldn't get back to.
Great breakdown, that really is. Because, look, when I saw him get off the scales, Josh Taylor, I thought to myself straight away, do you know what? He looks good. When we saw him against Jack Catterall, his eyes were sunk. They were very dark. He looked like he struggled to make the weight. I thought he's made the weight well here. That sort of gave me some confidence. But he had the first 3 rounds were very good. He started really well, started fast, but then you could see fatigue start setting in quite early. Clearly from making the weight. He's going to have to move up to 147 now. I know he talked about the rematch after, wanting to go back into that one. Teofimo Lopez was back to his best. He hasn't looked particularly good.
Has he got a rematch?
There's no rematch. He was saying, listen, if I could get the rematch, then great. I'd love the rematch.
Curious why he didn't put a rematch clause in there. Because he was the one bringing the belt into the ring.
I'm not sure what it is. But for Teofimo Lopez, I think from the 4th round, he had a great 4th round, great 5th round, and he really turned the screw, if I'm honest. His timing was great, his distance was great, and everything seemed to go into place. He looked back to his best, and it was a dominant performance. I thought he won the fight clearly, if I'm honest.
I think he did, yeah.
He won it clearly, and I think Taylor done well. 12th round especially was a gruelling round for Taylor. He had to dig deep just to hang in there. But you could see that fatigue had set in. Like I say, I think weight is a big issue there. Huge issue, and he has to move up to 147.
I mean, there's no doubt, there's never been a doubt, and never will be a doubt, that Josh Taylor is a warrior. But
he's a world-class fighter.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't get away from that.
But we've now seen 2 performances that have surprised us. One performance, which was the fact that possibly just for that individual fight against Jack Catterall, he underestimated him. I mean, I personally think if he were to fight Jack Catterall again, I think that Josh would be able to produce the performance that we would have expected the first time round against Jack Catterall, and I think he'd go on and win against Jack Catterall, and there'd be no dispute about this one. I think he would stylistically find his way around Jack Catterall and do the job that you would have expected. I don't think he would because of the weight. I just think he's dead at the weight at 140. I think that proves it to be against Lopez. Is there any benefit in fighting at a catch weight?
There's only a benefit for Josh Taylor at catch weight.
Or more for Jack Catterall to get paid.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I think that Catchall's chasing his own dreams. He can make 140 comfortably.
Right.
He's chasing his own dreams. You know, there's a fight there with Regis Prograde, WBT champion,
fair enough.
someone of that sort of stature.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know now. I know emotions were running high with Lopez after the fight, and he was talking about, you know, not wanting to fight anymore. He wants
Lopez?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
Lopez
talked about retiring,
yeah, because of the money, etc. I understand that he will fight again. He's a big figure in the sport, and I think that was a dominant performance. He proved that he's the strongest. You know, one of the strongest at 140, definitely. I think I'd love to see a fight with Lopez and Prograis, or I'd like to even see Lopez versus Devin Haney. Would be a great fight as well. I'd like to see that fight if Haney was going to move up. I think that would be fantastic. Some massive fights out there for him, what I'm saying, Lopez. And he's just, he's just put his name back in the mix as a
because
big
we all,
fighter.
I mean, we all being those that watch the sport, and some watch it really in depth, and some watch it from a peripheral point of view. And somewhere in the middle of that conversation, and I'm probably in the middle of that conversation. I don't watch every single fight and every single round of every single fight, but I like to watch as much as I possibly can. All picked Josh Taylor.
Yeah.
And all factored in the fact that we knew he was struggling at the weight, but none of us, we all felt, or not all, but certainly myself and say Adam Catchall felt that the influence of Teofimo Lopez's father in the background was a little bit too noisy. And
they were questioning
the
Lopez's
losses to
state of mind
Combasis
as
Jr.
well.
Yeah, and the fact that he was ranting and raving about all kinds of stuff, which of course he's retracted after the fight, and said it and dealt with it properly in terms of apologising to Josh Taylor. I just wish they wouldn't say this sort of crap because it's unnecessary. Because it becomes something that people just go, actually there isn't any genuity in this.
I think he said it, and there was he had nowhere to go with it, and then he just kept repeating things, and he was digging and getting deeper and deeper and deeper. I think emotions, when you get a fight of that magnitude, emotions run high, and you know some people handle it differently. Lopez obviously didn't handle it particularly well, but in his performance, he showed great composure, timing, speed. He looked back to his best, and I think he slowly, systematically broke Taylor down. I think it was a top class performance. It proved that. You know, the people that were questioning him before going into that fight, saying he shouldn't be fighting, he doesn't seem like he's in the right state of mind. Well, he's just a very unpredictable guy. You know, he's just one of those guys.
Because this decline in Josh has come. Okay, he's been out of the ring for 15 months, but this decline in Josh, realistically losing the last two fights, but on paper only losing one of them, has come on relatively quickly. Do you think the defeat against Lopez? Did the wheels start to come off as a result of the Catchall performance? Do you think that leads to that?
If I'm honest,
or are you just going to say
if I'm honest, Simon,
it's weight?
If I'm honest, mate, and that's where I see it. You know, I think that he's a great fighter, Josh Taylor, and I put it down to one thing and one thing only, that he's just dead at the weight. And that was evident in that Lopez fight. You looked at him for 3 rounds there, and he looked great for 3 rounds. Yeah. And that's taking nothing away from Lopez and his performance and the way he adapted, and you know the way that he performed was brilliant. But you did see a deterioration in him as early as the 3rd round. You know, the fatigue did set in. You see his legs stiffening up a little bit, and he was like biting down his gum shield. Speaking as the next fighter, I know that you're looking at, when I'm watching a fight, I'm seeing, I can see turning points where you look at him going, he's struggling here. He's in 5th gear. He's going through it. And Lopez was still going through the gears.
Yeah,
he was growing in confidence.
He
started landing good shots. He started setting traps, and you know, and it was a great performance, but Taylor was struggling, and that's purely down to making the weight. I used to make weight. I used to struggle to make weight. And I know what it does to you. And if you don't get it right, you know, then that's what happens. Taylor, I think Catchall, he got it wrong, badly wrong. You could see that in it, like physically, he looked terrible. Here, he may have got the weight right, making it right, and the timings and everything, but he's just dead at the weight. That's what I think. It's plain as simple as that. But then we're talking about moving up to 147. If he moves up to 147, then you're talking about like your Errol Spence and you know your Terence Crawfords, guys of that sort of thing. And then you go, well, does he mix it with them? But then we don't know what he's going to be like with that extra 7 pounds on, because he could be a much better fighter than he was down at 140. It's interesting. I think there's some big fights out there still for him, but
it's a dilemma
it has to be at 147.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he reacts to this now. And what, I mean, you know, he was magnanimous. I think he felt the need to be magnanimous because people would have accused him of.
I'm pleased he was.
Well, I think it was self-evident.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? The fight, he was beaten on the evening by the guy that was the better fighter, and it would have been really poor for Josh not to have said what he said.
Yeah.
Albeit he could have said it because the guy's turning around and saying ridiculous things before the fight.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying. He had more of a case to say in this fight than he did against Jack Catterall. And the Catterall fight was, for me, it was a one-sided fight. That was, if there was ever a time to go, listen, I got beat by the better man. That was the boxing gods were with me. That was the time to do it. But listen, I'm glad that he accepted defeat graciously.
I mean, I hope he steps up. I hope he does make the right choices for himself. If it is to be believed, and you're right, which I've no reason to suggest you're not, by going up to 147, he's going to have a different lease of life than the one he's currently got.
Definitely.
A rematch, I think, probably is an unwise move for him.
Yeah.
Just on the subject of Lopez, can you make a case for Jack Catterall beating
It's a great fight, that.
Lopez?
It's a great fight, that. It really is. I can make a case for Catterall beating him, because Catterall's a difficult guy to box. He gets into a little rhythm, and and he's an awkward guy. He's an awkward guy to box. I can make a case for him winning the fight, definitely. Yeah, but it's a tough fight.
But I can make a case. I can make a case in this day and age for my aunt being my uncle. But does that mean that he can win?
Well, yeah, he can win.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can win. Yeah, he can win.
But do you
You're
think
not so sure?
No, I think Teofimo Lopez is.
I know.
I think he's on a different
level. Lopez would start favourite off the back of that performance.
I think Jack Catterall's had a great night against Josh Taylor, and he needs to be given all the credit that he subsequently deserves for it. But I think when you're then saying that he's going to take that in against Lopez, I think Lopez is a different animal.
Catterall beat Taylor better than Lopez beat him.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
He
puts him.
But this is a different.
It's a good fight.
But to be fair to Josh Taylor, not to labour the point, he took Jack Catterall as lightly as he possibly could, and he came into that fight with a wrong psychology. He came in like Carl Froch did against George Groves, with the wrong attitude, the wrong disposition, and didn't get himself going, and managed to claw it back by sheer fortitude and get himself in a position where there could be a case that maybe in the minds of certain people that they could have given it to him, and they duly did. Anyway, we will see. Going on to a subject matter that we've talked about regularly, which is the heavyweights, but we haven't alighted upon this particular heavyweight too much, but we've always alighted upon him in association with Anthony Joshua or in association with Tyson Fury, but never in isolation, and which is Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's going to be out, according to him or those around him, in September.
Yeah.
We've spoken about Wilder, and we've spoken about his achievements, and I think I'm fair to say that we've both been very critical about technically his ability. Do you think he can become a world champion again?
I do, but I do believe he can become world champion again because he's dangerous, he's explosive, he can whack, and he's very quick. We have been critical of his technical ability, and I stand by that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that he can't beat any heavyweight in the world on his day. So I do believe that he can become world heavyweight champion again. What route is that? Who knows? But I just think that the titles over the next couple of years will change hands a couple of times. It's going to be fascinating to see. I spoke to Amir Abdullah yesterday actually, and he said that this competition that they're talking about in Saudi Arabia in December, that are in talks with all parties, and he believes that he will get that over the line. I think that we could see Deontay Wilder box on the undercard of Anthony Joshua. That's a possibility, We could see that over here. How great would that be if we saw that?
If you're making a case for Deontay Wilder to be a two-time heavyweight champion, which of course can be achieved by the nature of a unification fight between Usyk and Fury, and then a scattering of the belts 6 months later, and then belts being available for people to fight one another. But paring that back, what do you see? And you must have, if you're making the case for him to be a two-time world champion, and I'm not in that camp, what do you think his roadmap is?
Well, that's the difficult one, because we don't know what roadmap is for anyone at the moment. Because you say if he boxes Anthony Joshua, say we get these two semi-finals, and Deontay Wilder boxes Anthony Joshua, and he's victorious in that.
But he can't beat Tyson Fury, can he? Wilder.
He can't. I don't think he'll beat Tyson Fury now.
Right. So in order to get that opportunity, it's got to be Alexander Usyk.
Yeah, but then we don't know what's going to happen with Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury. I mean, that's a great fight as well. Yeah. Tyson Fury obviously starts a favourite. He's the #1 heavyweight in the world right now. But you don't know how much Alexander Usyk can raise his game. We don't know what the outcome of that fight is. What I'm saying is there is a roadmap. I believe that Anthony Joshua could become a world champion again. I believe that Deontay Wilder could do it. I think that these guys could change titles a lot. And I don't know what the roadmap is for them or where it goes. So that's why I want to see this four-man competition.
Okay, I just want to push back on the idea that either Joshua or Wilder can become world champions. Are you saying that they become world champions because once the unification has happened, if that
and the titles get fragmented or whatever,
and because there'll be a rematch in there, there'll be a rematch of some shape or description, and someone potentially,
or for the undisputed you're talking about.
Well, yeah, if Fury fights Usyk for the undisputed, and there's a rematch clause that one of them puts in there because they've had this argument going round and round, and the Saudis will take it. Someone's going to have to drop a belt somewhere because one of the bodies is going to turn around and say, "We'll drop that. You can't do that. Our mandatory's next."
When I had that conversation with Amir Abdullah yesterday, he was talking about. I said, "Would the winner box the winner?" And he said that was a likely scenario. So what I'm saying is, you could get undisputed for Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. Whoever wins that is now undisputed champion, and the winner of Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder boxes for the undisputed. So there's loads of likely scenarios that could happen.
Yeah, but it's not their gift. The Saudis, as much as they might think they own the world, it's not their gift to tell the belts. You can contract a fighter, you can't contract the belts, can you?
But listen, when they put the old Muller on the table, and that's basically
and the licensing fees that go,
absolutely. He said that basically they are very lucrative offers, and that's why he believes that these fights can be done, and he can make it as quick as 1 week. He says that, listen, we will offer all parties, the 4 parties, we will offer them their own separate deals, whatever that is. It's not a percentage thing.
No, they're all deals.
They're all separate deals. We're going to offer each fighter, but let me just tell you that the temptation for the money that they're offered will be too much, and they believe that's why they'll get this over the line.
Again, Wilder, if you're saying he's going to make a 2-time heavyweight champion, yet you're making the case for Anthony Joshua to beat him.
No, but listen,
how are we going to get there? Is this around the world in 80 days?
No, this is where
it's
where
fully
I'm
as
going,
fog
mate.
taking him
what
there.
I'm saying is he has the ability to go and win a world title again. What the roadmap is, I'm not sure. What I'm saying is I believe that he could become a world champion again. I'm not saying like Anthony Joshua could become a world champion again. Where it is and whatever, I don't know the roadmap for that. But what I'm saying is they've got the ability to become. So what I'm saying is, if Deontay Wilder won a world title again, would I be surprised? Definitely not. If Anthony Joshua becomes a 3-time world heavyweight champion, would I be surprised? Definitely not.
Would you? Okay, then let's just put that through the ringer. Would you be surprised if Deontay Wilder beat Tyson Fury? I think you'd be frigging gobsmacked.
No, I wouldn't be gobsmacked. Mate, he's like. Tyson Fury obviously has proved it. He's done it 3 times. What I'm saying is, in every one of those fights, there's been dramas. They've been great fights. It's not been like a one-sided fight. The second one, maybe. Second one, was to be fair. But the first one, the third one, they were dramas, man. Like Fury had to pick himself off the floor. Listen, I know as an ex-fighter, if you get hit in the right spot, you're going to sleep, and that's it. What I'm saying is, Fury has showed incredible balls to be able to pick himself off the floor, and that's why he's the #1 heavyweight right now.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, again, I bow to the knowledge of a fighter.
I would go Fury 10 times out of 10 against him. But what I'm saying is, he's got the ability because he's got the punch power.
Yeah.
He's explosive, and he's sort of, he's so technically bad that you don't know where those shots are coming from, and that makes you a dangerous. You know what I mean? That makes you a dangerous opponent.
How do you think he'd go against Usyk?
That's a great fight. That's a very winnable fight for Wilder.
I mean, what would Usyk do? Why?
We talk about because of punch power. Because he's so
explosive. Land it on Usyk?
Yeah,
I mean, Joshua couldn't.
Listen, Joshua did land on Usyk. He did land on him. What I'm saying is, heavyweight boxing, he will get hit, and it's how he responds to that Usyk. I'll go with Usyk all day long on it. But what I'm saying is, he's got the ability to win the fight. You can't write Wilder off with any of the heavyweights.
Do you think Wilder should fight in the UK in September?
I'd love that. I think that it would be a great business move, obviously, to set up this fight with Anthony Joshua. And that's what I was talking about. If he boxed in the UK.
But that's not September. That's in Saudi in December.
But what I'm saying is, if they both boxed on the same bill, he would sort of create.
Where are we with that? Do we know where we are with that fight, the Joshua White fight? Because I understand that they were quite a way apart on purses. Well, Dillian White's expectations.
Yeah, I don't know where we're at
significantly
with it.
different than what Joshua and his guys think they're going to sweep off the table as crumbs.
I know they're talking about August the 12th was the date, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. August the 12th was the date. I don't know where they're at with negotiations, but I know that that's when Anthony Joshua wants to fight. Dillian White's the front runner for that. I think we'll be hearing you soon on that. if I'm totally honest. I know Deontay Wilder's talking about fighting end of August, September time. Tyson Fury's still looking for an opponent. So they all want to get out. They all need to get out. Alexander Usyk, August the 26th, out in Poland against Daniel Dubois. That's confirmed. Yep. So I think they all need to get out.
Spence, in a slight departure from what we usually do, this has sort of been driven by people putting questions into the comment section about subjects that they think that should be discussed rather than questions that should be answered. And one of the ones that's come up and a lot of people made observations about is about the weigh-in regime.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that's obviously come post the Mauricio Lara Lee Wood fight, when obviously
Lara
he didn't make weight and didn't make it by some way.
Yeah, 4 pounds.
And the questions have been abounding about when weigh-ins happen and how it's changed from a weigh-in on the day to a weigh-in on the day before.
Yeah.
What do you make of it all?
Well, I've done both, to be fair. I think I've done my first
Which was your preferred one?
5 or 6 fights. Well, had the weigh-in been on the day,
Yeah.
I would never have been able to box at super bantamweight.
Right.
So I won my European title, say my 11th fight. Had the weigh-in still been in the day then,
You'd
I
have
would never have been able to
hydrated-
make the
you'd have
weight. So I
hydrated
used to
back up.
drain down and I'd literally make the weight for 20 seconds off the scales. And that probably was why what happened to me because my body was dehydrated. It hasn't got time to rehydrate in 24 hours. It's not a long enough time. So it's one of those difficult ones because...
Why was it moved? Is it predominantly because of the safety aspects?
Yeah, because of the safety aspects for boxers to be able to rehydrate more. But what that actually done was made boxers then drain down more because they go, we've got 24 hours
and
to
they just
rehydrate.
hydrate back up again.
So is it right? Is it wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those ones. Like I say, had that... Look, so if it would have been... If I would have been boxing for my European titles and the weigh-in would have been on the day, I would never have been able to box at that weight. And that effectively would have probably saved my career. Because it was me draining down to the weight. That's why I got injured in the ring, because I was but we never had check weigh-ins in or anything like that. They've now got check weigh-ins, etc.
Isn't the alternate argument?
So I don't think that weighing on a day would be more beneficial, if I'm honest.
Excuse my layman-esque outlook, but isn't just the better answer for people to fight in the weight classes that perhaps suit them?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it just it doesn't, because everyone else does it. It's like a trend. You have to follow suit. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting a guy that's, do you know what I mean, that comes down. Some fighters are dropping like, a couple of stone. And that is a lot of weight. Fighters sometimes, rehydrate. When they rehydrate, they go up like 15, 16, 17 pounds.
But is it in your mind, I mean, to put some sort of summation to it, is it better to have, if your professional judgment, is it better to have a weigh-in on the day or the previous day, or the day before, as it currently is? It's been changed now.
Yeah, I think for me it would be, I think the previous day was more beneficial. Gives you time to rehydrate more, and but the downside of that is that fighters are draining down to weight because they've got 24 hours to rehydrate. So for me, I would have preferred to weigh in a day.
Unless of course you're Mauricio Lara.
Yeah, absolutely, and then just missed the weight and. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose an interesting part of the conversation about weigh-ins, whether it's a day before or on the day, is this other layer that certain commissions introduce, and we know they introduced in the British Boxing Call, which is the check weigh-in.
Yeah.
I don't know when it was introduced. I don't know if you do.
Well, it wasn't around when I was boxing, that's for sure. So it's been something that was introduced more recently.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing, the check weigh-ins, to be fair. I think it.
Well, it's giving an indication of where someone is. And stopping them from stopping them from boiling down.
Absolutely.
Which is what happened with Lara, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lara gets a check weigh in 3 or 4 days before the fight, or whenever it was, and
the board are not happy.
The board go, we're not having you boil down.
Yeah.
Not in this condition.
Yeah.
You're not in the right condition.
It's dangerous.
You haven't taken it down naturally. You're now going to have to take it down in an artificial way to get to that point, and we don't want it. Ironically, the fight still goes ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a weights and measures. There is method, but that check weigh-in isn't utilised across all the commissions, is it?
No, it's not.
All the boards.
And it should be.
Yeah.
It should be, yeah.
Right, that's it for Talk Boxing episode 29. Don't forget, most importantly, Pat, to keep liking and subscribing to the videos. Keep leaving your comments in the question section below. And myself and the old wise one over there, we'll see you next time.